Okay, this is your tour guide Michael Olens. Today we are continuing with our city tour of Kumasi. Where we are now is called the Menchia Palace Museum. And as I said, Kumasi is one of my favorites. And we have in our midst one of the best tour guide in this city. So I'm going to leave the baton to him. It's my senior brother. He's going to introduce himself and give us an exquisite history about this palace museum. Stay behind and listen to our brother.
You are once again welcome. As my colleague Michael Fred mentioned it, my name is Michael Odro, but you can choose to call me Komna Frimpong as my local name. I'm going to give you a brief history about this palace museum. The building behind us were used by 3 kings of Asante. That was Prempeh I, the 13th king. When he returned from Seychelles Island, he came to live in this house for 8 years, because that time the old palace had been burned down by the British. So they built this one as a compensation for the Asantes. But the Asantes refused to take it as a gift, so they paid for it before allowing the king to live in. The reason was that if they take it as a gift, maybe they can go and come back and ask for their building back, and that will bring a disgrace to a king of Asante. But paying for it means it had becomes our bosom property. So we paid for it before allowing the king to live in. And then Prempeh II, the 14th king, also living here for 39 years. Then the late King Opoku II also lived here for 5 years before turning the whole building to be a museum on the 12th of August 1995. So this is a brief history about the place that I can tell you inside it. If you want to know more about it, please try to come in and then you get to know more about the building or more about the palace. Thank you.
Right, we're standing in front of the Prempeh II Jubilee Museum, and right behind me is a statue of King Prempeh II. And it was during his era that this cultural center was established. Let me say this museum you see was established in 1951. So it's a year older than Ghana as a sovereign state. Now the cultural center, as we call it, it is the first cultural center in Ghana and in the whole of West Africa. And this cultural center was birthed in 1951, and it was through the personal drive and vision of a great son of the land called Dr. Alexander Atayo Chematin, with the tacit support of King Prempeh II and the Asante Mine Council. Dr. Chematin, who I refer to as the doyen of Ghanaian culture, or Asante culture for that matter, he had a scholarship to study anthropology in Cambridge, and having graduated with his PhD doctorate degree, he decided no, he has to come back down where he has to come back home so that we can establish a center of excellence where we can promote, protect and preserve our culture in all its forms. So when he came, he tabled his vision to King Prempeh II and the Asante Mine Council. They studied it and realized the immense benefit it holds for Asante Mine back then, so the Asante nation back then. So the king donated this vast stretch of land that included the zoo then, and so the cultural center was established. And Dr. Chematin was as well the first director from when it was established in 1951 up to 1976 when he passed on. The cultural center, as I said, is such a big place. It has so many facilities, and we do a lot of things. The museum houses rare artifacts of Ashanti, some dating back 400 years. And there's one other thing you see there, which is the golden stool of Ashanti, the copy which Ashantis gave to the British to deceive them. We have it in there. And then we have the visual art department, where there are mostly artisans, traditional artisans, occupying the top. Over there you see some doing pottery and ceramics. We have the kente weaving section. We have the broadloom weaving section. We have those who are engaged in batik dye and dye. We have these private artisans who are also engaged in bamboo rattan work, sculpturing, metal works, gold, brass casting, among other things. Then we have the performing arts department. They are solely in charge of traditional dance, drama, traditional African dance forms, and then drama. They perform all manner of dances, and then we have the administration where the day-to-day running of the center it takes place. So briefly, this is about the cultural center. In 1963, the cultural center had gained currency in the whole of Ghana. So Kwame Nkrumah, en route to the northern part of Ghana, decided to pay a visit to the cultural center. Dr. Chematin took him on a tour of the whole setup, and Kwame Nkrumah said, wow, what a big thing to have. So he went and wrote that indeed we are a nation state Ghana. So this cultural center should be nationalized and made a national asset. So the king and the Asante Mara Council agreed and handed over, or they ceded the administration and management of the cultural center to the state or the government for that matter. And it was named Ghana National Cultural Center. So briefly, that is about the history of the cultural center. We have a lot of facilities here. We have the open air theater. We have the Apatakes here, which serves over 2,000 people. We have the open lawn. We have other halls where we organize our core programs. Again, as a public institution, it serves as a recreational center, a picnic center, among other things for the public. Religious programs, weddings, cultural events are all done here. We also organize workshops, seminars, all geared towards, instilling our cultural values into the people of Ghana. And so this is about the cultural center, Kumasi.
Right, so we are now at one of the must-to-see attractions in Kumasi. The place is called Komfanochi Sword. It's a major highlight in the Kumasi tourism enclave. So my brother is going to tell us about the center.
Yeah, as my brother is saying, you cannot come to Kumasi without visiting Komfanochi Sword side, the beginning of Ashanti Kingdom. So today I'm going to give you a vivid local hidden history behind me of Komfanochi Sword side. Ashanti Kingdom started in 1695.
Right.
And if you want to know where the Ashanti Kingdom started, here is the place, Komfanochi Sword site.
Right.
Why Komfanochi Sword site? In the olden days, the Ashanti kings, they were no unity. So anytime their enemies comes around or they come around, they capture them, they send them to a town called Dintra in the central part of Ghana. So there was this fetish priest. In our local dialect or in our local language, when you say fetish priest, that's a pastor or evangelist or a seer.
It's a prophet.
It's a prophet. So he invited these kings here and told them, before you can defeat your enemies, you have to be unity and choose a leader. But choosing a leader was difficult because everyone see himself as a leader.
Right.
So he told them, go back and come in 1 week time. In 1 week time, you will choose a leader. So 1 week time, they came and assembled themselves here. He collected their fingernails, part of their hair, and mixed it with a palm wine. Palm wine is a local brew that we get it from palm tree. So he gave it to each and every one to drink as a covenant. So during that time, he conjured a golden stool from sky. And he told them, whoever the golden stool will land on his lap is going to be a leader among you. So the golden stool landed on King Osei-Tutu's laps.
Yeah.
So he became an unconscionable leader among the kings. He told them, whatever we are having here is a unity. So he collected their stool. In our tradition or in our palace or in our custom, when you go to palace, we don't sit on an ordinary chair. We have a stool designed for kings and queen mothers. So he collected their stools and dig a big hole here and bury all the stool inside. And he placed a sword, or he planted a sword on it. After that, he warned them that no one should come back and remove the sword because the stools is under the sword. If anyone come back and remove the sword, the unity that we are having here, it will not going to exist. Right. So ever since, no one has been able to remove the sword. So if you want to know the beginning of Ashanti unity, here is the place.
All right.
And during that time, he warned them that here that we have gathered, it will be a dead place, it will be a bad place for people. Meaning that people will be born here, people will die here. So it came to a time, then the king wanted to build a hospital for his people. So he invited some contractors from Europe called G. Walker and Slated. So they came here and came to survey the land. As they are surveying the land with their caterpillars and bulldozers, they came in contact with the sword on the ground. So they sent a message to the palace that this is what we found on the ground. So the next day when they came, they couldn't find the sword again. So they sent a message across if anyone can come and pull the sword so they can continue their work. And ever since, no one has been able to pull the sword up. The sword is not there for many magic or any fancy thing. The sword is there for the unity of Ashanti Kingdom.
That's right. All right, thank you. So, to throw more light on what my brother said, after the event which took place here in 1695, when Ashanti became a strong state, after all the chiefs and the paramountcy have come together under one leadership of the first king of Ashanti, Nana Osei Tutu the First, they went ahead and conquered the Denches. You know, Ashantis, before they became a powerful state, they were subject to another kingdom called the Denche. They are located on the southern part of Ghana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So after this unity, it gave the Ashanti that power to triumphant over their closest enemy, that is the Denches. And after that, Ashanti has become the most powerful ethnic group empire that ever rose out of the forest area of Ghana. Their empire expanded over the borders of Ghana. No. Ashantis became very great because of one great triumphant they had over the Denches after the events here. And you know what happened here also symbolically giving them the power to triumphant over the Denches. There's a festival which the Ashanti celebrate every 42 days. So every 42 days they celebrate what we call the Akwesidai. The Akwesidai, they remember their illustrious sons and how they defeat and broke the yoke of the Denches. It's a very powerful festival which happened in this land every 42 days. The climax is always in December. So anytime you are around, you can look under the traditional calendar of Ashanti to see if there's an Akwesidai festival going on. You can immerse into a great traditional culture of the land. Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself. My name is Ben Kwesi and I'm your local tour guide here in Kumasi. Today, I want to show you secret gems in Kumasi they never show you. So here I'm with Alhaji Alhassan, who is a local herbalist in Kumasi who sells voodoo items. So he's going to introduce me to some of the voodoo items and explain what they use the voodoo items for. So follow the video, whatever is going to show you. So Baba, let's say I'm a first timer and I come to your shop, then I want a medicine, have a waist pains. What kind of medicine can you recommend to me?
Gaskiya ne in ya tambaye ni haka nan ba akwai gaskiyar da sun gwada mai ciki ko kayan ga muna sayarwa ne amma ainihin masu aiki da shi ya zama magani akwai su ba mu wani
So, Baba is trying to say they have so many kind of herbs over here, but we have specific people who comes here for the medicine. So his job is here to provide the medicine for the buyers.
Amma abubuwan waɗansu na nan muna mutum abin da ake yi da shi wani kuma ba mu sani.
Okay. So he is saying for now he can show us some usage of the medicine, some he can't show us the meaning because they go to secret behind the closed door and tell you what the uses of the medicine. So for now he's going to show us a little
Wasu kaman fatan kada haka muna iya bari a yi shi leda.
Okay.
Ya yi kyau ma polishi turawa suka zo suna su steli shi kaman fatan maisa shi ya muna iya mu yi shi leda mu ba su su steli ba wani magani ake yi da shi ba.
Say crocodile elebesi, every two the top of their paper, no more big.
Okay.
I'm a python skin.
Okay, so this is the leather of a crocodile. In Africa or in Ghana, we use crocodile skin or leather to make out of a bag, or a handbag or backpack. So over here too is antelope skin. You can use it as a floor mat or hanging it on your wall.
Kamar fatu gane kwanci jaja ga baki ga ja ga fari shi kuma malami mai magani yayi laya ya ba mai shi zo mu dunki mu ba shi ma ya fike sa
Bueno, so kokoro ni kulturu wani brown. Buwa ko no de na san ko kuma le biyo no ye gbo wana. Na de ba na ya pama ma no. Okay. Kene be ya adi bia na tutu boni bia ntimi ko ka ade no ade no be bono ko ba.
So over here you will see different kinds of skin, animal skin. We have the black, we have the brown, we have the white. In our society, when you visit a spiritualist, he will ask you to go and find different kind of animal skin. When you bring it, he's going to sit on it and tell you the secret behind your sickness or your illness.
Awaki da raguna ne su muna yi saboda masu buga bain suna asari da su shine gonka
wani biya wani yayin su da to ali koye ya ga no
Okay. So over here we have different kinds of animal products or animal parts. So if you look at this one, this is a foot of cow. Elephant. Over here on my right hand is the tail, cow tail. In our tradition, most Fortis priests use cow tail to drive bad spirits away.
Kaman ka goda mishi kaman fatan mai san da nace muna yin shi lada mu yi shi mu fara shi turawa na tin nan ya yi gashi na kaga wannan fatoci mai san ne fatan mai san ne ka ga ni ko
kine su sane biye no mo bibre o biye python skin na cho mo da ce ni yanye ne leda so yo wa e be leda what's it oh me it's very huge.
Really? Kaman waka kaman masu yin magani su dafa jikinsu su kosa da irin namomin daji kasusuwansu zuwa fatansu shine kaman wanga haka kafan giwa ne tafin kafan shi ke kaga haka kafan shi ne wanga da boye ne ya mishi
papa kire say mo ya wo hu mo mani na edika say no ebi mu beto e de ko bino mo ho se na be ya
Okay.
Yeah, what you was
So all these animals' bones and their skins, you see them. Others locals come here to buy it to fortify their spiritual protection. Tromo, oh yeah, English.
We call it
Tromo.
like buffalo.
Buffalo. Okay.
Yeah, buffalo.
This is the horn of buffalo.
Kaman wanga haka kan giwa ne.
Okay. That's there.
All right, so this is your tour guide Michael Orleans from Torchlight Tours. My address has always been by Images Design. You can see them and check them up on your screen. So we are gradually getting to the coast, and as we get into the coast, most of the highlight and focus is going to be on slavery, how Europeans enslaved Africans. So today, as we get closer to the ocean on the coast, our final destination is going to be the Cape Coast and Elimina, which play a major role in transatlantic slave trade. Where we stand now is a sacred grounds. Where we stand now is a sacred grounds. It is called Asen Manson. And this particular demarcated area is the slave market. So we are going to take the tour of the slave river. When our forefathers trekked from the nearby countries, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, down to the coast to behead at the dungeons before later the slave ship will come and take them. This was a major slave market. A slave market which they sought the weak from the strong after trekking all this mass from the northern part to the south, and they give them what we call the last bath. They smear their body with palm oil just to make them attractive. So today we are here to take the tour of the area. I am very happy to have in with us the creator at the center, the leading tour guide of the area. Roland is going to take us through the tour, and I will say that in solemn reflection, let's listen to him. And also for our brothers and sisters who have not made this journey, put yourself into it and let's together have a culture immersion. Thank you so much.
Good morning, friends of the diaspora, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to the central region of Ghana, Asen Manso Slave River site to be precise. My name is Kofi and I'm going to be your tour guide. But before we start with the tour, we'll be observing a minute of silence for all our brothers and sisters that lost their lives during the trade. After which I will say, may their souls rest in perfect peace, and all of us here will respond by saying, Ashe. So please can we observe a minute of silence? Thank you very much. May the souls of our ancestors rest in perfect peace. Ashe. Once again, you are welcome to Asen Manso Slave River site. Asen, as the name implies, means people that are just passing through, and Manso being the capital of Asen. So Asen Manso basically means the capital of Asen. Now, Asen Manso was the biggest slave market during the transatlantic slave trade. It was documented by one British historian in the person of W.E. Ward in his book entitled The Short History of Ghana. Likewise, Ekuya Adumapebi also documented that in their book, The Transatlantic Slave Trade, Landmark Legacies and Expectations, as indeed being the biggest slave market. During the transatlantic slave trade, captives that were captured from the upper borders of Ghana, like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and some parts of Nigeria, were first made to walk in chains and shackles, barefooted and half naked, to the Salaga market at the north. It was in the Salaga market that they had their first resting period. They were made to rest just for a few days, and again, they were made to walk in chains and shackles, barefooted and half naked, to Asen Manso slave market here, which was 300 miles from Salaga market. During that journey, because we are passing through the forest belt of our country, a lot of our brothers and sisters were exposed to many dangers while marching us from the Salaga to Asen Manso. Some of us lost our lives during the journey. Most of us were attacked by wild animals. Making the journey from Salaga to Asen Manso, we got to a place called the Pra River. When we got to the Pra River, in my thinking, this is a river that we could at least fetch some, drink, and quench our thirst. But little did our forebearers knew that it was their death trap. So most of our brothers and sisters, when they arrived at the Pra River, they were sorted out, and the survivor and the fittest took place. So those of our brothers and sisters that were weaker and couldn't continue the journey, they were dropped into the Pra River to die. When we landed here at Asen Manso, this was the place that we were sorted out according to age and sex. Men separated from the women, children, etc. And by defining our ages, a device called the speculum oris is put into our mouth, open our mouth, count our teeth, thereby forecasting our ages. Broken bottles was what was used in shaving our brothers and sisters. Leaves from a bamboo tree, which are very itchy, was what was used to bathe them in the river. And after that, they were made to take their last bath before being sold out to the merchants. And after selling them, they were again made to walk in chains and shackles to the Cape Coast dungeons, which was 35 miles from here, because that was the place that the slave ship was being docked. Now, during that era, wherever you were captured, it was a match of no return. You're going from your roots and you're never coming back. So when you are taken through the dungeons of the castle at Cape Coast, there's this particular door with the inscription, the door of no return. This door is one of the doors that most of our brothers and sisters that were sold through slavery passed through at the Cape Coast. Now, with the door of no return, it's very, very, very important depending on where you're coming from. Because with the door of no return, they believe that we are never ever going to come back alive to tell the story as it is. They thought our culture and traditions as Africans would be claimed forever. And they thought that is going to be the end of the black race. But now that things have changed, now that our brothers and sisters from the diaspora are coming back to their roots as at when they love to come, now that we are so conscious enough to know where we are coming from, then there is a need for us to change that perception, that writings on the walls of the dungeons from the door of no return that suits them to the door of return that suits us. Because now we are always coming back to our roots as at when we love to return. But the big question is, how do we change that writings on the walls of the dungeons from the door of no return to the door of return? That is why, as you can see in our ancestral graveyard, we have the mortal remains of our two great ancestors. First, we have Madam Crystal from Kingston, Jamaica, and we have Samuel Cousin from New York, US of A. Madam Crystal was a beautiful young lady who was captured and landed up in Jamaica as enslaved African. But because she was a woman, she couldn't bear seeing people maltreated, people being killed one after the other. So in a way, she decided to rebel against the act by starving herself to death. But during that era, whenever you do that, there is a punishment that is meted on you to serve as a deterrent from your other captives from doing same. They chisel your teeth and they force you to feed, which is called force feeding. This and other punishment Madam Crystal had to endure. But because she was fighting for you and I, she stood firm. She never took in anything until she lost her life. We have the descendants of Madam Crystal visiting every 27th of December just to pour libation, just to pray and say to their ancestor, Medase, which means thank you. We have Samuel Cousin. He was the first African American to rise to the highest rank in the US Navy. He died at the age of 35 years, but he wasn't given a befitting burial. So in 1998, their mortal remains was flown in from Jamaica and US respectively to the Kotika International Airport, then by boat across the Atlantic Ocean to the Cape Coast Castle, passing through all the channels in the castle, coming out of the door of no return, changing it to the door of return on the 31st day of July 1998. The same day they landed here at Asen Manso, it was a big funeral that was held on their behalf. All the people in the community was made to wear black and red to mourn their ancestors. We had a video for them, and the following morning, that is the 1st of August, these two of our great ancestors were buried here. So that is why every 1st of August, we the people of Ghana, and Asen Manso to be precise, celebrate our Emancipation Festival. Now when you look further, you could see a new tomb that is under construction. Basically, this was brought in here on the 14th day of November by the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Amo Motley. In a presentation, she said, our ancestors have seen her through all the realms, through all the changing seams of life. And today she has gone to become the leader of a great nation like Barbados. But she found it in her wisdom, that she needed to bring the mortal remains of their ancestors to be buried on their ancestral site. So these are the mortal remains of some of our brothers and sisters that were buried at a slave cemetery at Barbados. So they were basically brought in here on the 14th of December just to have a peaceful rest. Now, as you could see, we have a lot of portraits on the walls. These portraits are the portraits of freedom fighters, emancipators, and abolitionists on this site. Basically, the reason why we put in this portrait at this particular site is to always remember and appreciate the role that our forebears did to promote or to abolish the slavery in our encounter. So basically, when we are praying, we always pour libation and we mention some of these names so that in their spirit realms, they should come together and support us because the battle is not yet over. Now I'll be taking you to one beautiful plant called the mimosa plant. This plant has something that you need to know. So I'll take you there and I'll tell you what role that plant played in our history during the transatlantic slave trade. So if you don't mind, I'll speak Twi. I'll say Yanko, which means let's go. So in my first presentation, I made mention of one plant called the mimosa plant. Some of our people in the Caribbean call it shame old lady, and some of the people in the Caribbean also call it shame mamaka. Basically, this particular plant, during the era of slavery, some of our brothers and sisters were captured. Majority of us were against it, so we fought. But because we weren't having the best of weapons as compared to them, we were killed and killed. So to avoid us from being captured, we started hiding in caves and mountains. But in our hideout, the question is, how do we know whether it's safe to come out or not? That was why our forebears planted the mimosa plant. So whenever they want to come out, they make sure they plant this plant at a strategically placed positions around the caves. So the plants in here inform their decision whether it's safer to come out or not. So whenever they want to come out, the leader of the group will peep through the tiny holes around the caves to see whether the plant is as open as we are seeing now. So if the plant is as open as you are seeing now, then they suspect it is safe, nobody is out there, so you can come out and do whatever you feel like doing. But when they wake up early in the morning or in the afternoon and they find out that the plant is as close as we are seeing now, then your guess is as good as mine. Then they knew it wasn't safe for them to come out. Even though it can be a movement of an animal, but none of them wanted to take any risks, so they don't come out. So this plant called the mimosa plant saved a lot of our brothers and sisters during the era of slavery. I call the plant destiny plant because this plant is following us wherever we are as Africans. When you go to North and South Carolina, Mississippi, Virginia, Texas in the US of A, we have some of these plants over there. When you go to the Caribbean, almost every part of the Caribbean have some of these plants. So I always tell my brothers and sisters in the diaspora that do you think our ancestors are going to leave us alone without giving us traces of where we are coming from? So whenever you see these plants wherever you are, it's only have one message that is carrying across, which says, this is where you're coming from, That is why we said Sankofa. You need to come back to your roots. So this important plant played this beautiful role in our lives during the transatlantic slave trade. Now I'll be taking you to the ancestral root. This particular part is very, very, very important and very, very significant to Africans and Africans living in the diaspora, because it is one journey, it is one path that we walk to connect with our ancestors. It is one path that we walk to ask for inspiration and blessings from them. And it is one path that we walk to bring all Africans in the diaspora together. So as we're going to pass through, as we're going to walk on that path, I'll be telling you something important about the ancestral root. So we're going to make our journey through the path, and I'm going to tell you more you need to know about the ancestral path. So this is the ancestral route. This particular path leads to the Slave River. This particular path that we are seeing over here was developed by the feet of our ancestors. So most often at times when we are making our journey through the river, walking through this path, we do so with our shoes off. It is not binding to put your shoes off whenever you are making the journey to the river. But we have some reasons that we think, some reasons which are deemed fit, and we believe that when we walk through this path, we need to have a spiritual connection with our ancestors. Most often at times, people ask me, Kofi, why should we walk barefooted through this path to the river? And I always tell them, it is a kind of walk that connects you with our ancestors. The land that we are walking on is ours, but because of circumstances, most of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, because of circumstances, they've not been able to walk on the same path that their ancestors did. So as a sign of covenant, we make you walk on this path so that you have a connection with your ancestors. Secondly, by walking on this path, it also serves as an experience so that you could appreciate more what our ancestors went through in fighting for our survival. And last but not the least, it is an opportunity that we walk very, very, very silent so that we connect and we pray whilst we make the journey to the river. For me, the blessings that it comes with, I always go through this path with my shoes off. So I'm not going to go through this path with my shoes on. So watch me as I take my shoes off. Most of you knows about this plant, being the pineapple plant. Basically, this has been here for over 200 years. The more we try to preserve the plant is tired of preserving itself. So I always say, if she's a lady, maybe she will be at a menopause stage. This plant was planted by our brothers and sisters when they were coming from Salaga to Asen Manso. Because they were walking in the forest, they were moving around in circles because they couldn't see the right path to the market. So the raiders made our enslaved Africans to plant the pineapple in line from the middle passage to the slave market. So the pineapple serves as a landmark. So whenever they are coming and they see the pineapples, they will know they are on the right path to the slave market. So this pineapple was used as a GPRS or as a signpost by our forebears before making their journey to Asen Manso Slave River site. Now we'll be going through the ancestral route, and this is where the tour guide is never going to say a word, because it's an opportunity for our brothers and sisters and all of us to meditate, to reflect, and to connect with our ancestors. Most often at times, it becomes so sensitive and a lot of us cry remembering all that our ancestors have gone through. But we have other groups that try as much not to show that sensitivity, so they resort to singing. So whilst we are making the journey, we have other groups singing songs like Lift Every Voice and Sing, By the Rivers of Babylon, and other songs. But today, because I'm not having a good voice, we're going to make it a silent walk to the river. Okay, so welcome to the slave camp. This was where most of the horrible activities took place. This was a place that most of our brothers and sisters cried for help and cried to be free. This was the place that most of our brothers and sisters fought and were seen as rebellious and were killed. So basically this spot is where most of the blood of our ancestors were spilled. So this land that we are upon, it's a very important land spiritually and physically. Now, before we go through the spiritual aspects of this land, we'll first deal with the historical aspect of this land. Now, because this place was the biggest market, we were having the slave market at the same time, the slave camp. So the slave camp was where our brothers and sisters were brought in, fed, made to look attractive before selling them. Now this was the camp, and this was where everything happened. Because this place was a bamboo dominated area, the bamboo was used by the raiders as their camps. So when they bring their captives, they get one for themselves each, chain them around it, waiting for them to take their last bath before selling them. Now, when your time comes for you to go for your bath, the first thing that is done to you is to shave your hair. By doing so, they broke bottles and they used the bottles to shave your hair. You realize that after shaving theirs, most of our brothers and sisters will be having deep cuts with blood oozing all over them. After that, they were given a little food to eat just to sustain their strength and make them look a little bit stronger so that they could have good price for them. Now they bring them to this river, but this river are two separate rivers. They are not the same river. We have one river that is flowing from the right called Ama Emisa. Ama Emisa is getting its source from the Pra River. The same river our brothers and sisters were dumped in to die. That is where the river Emisa is getting its source from. We have this river here to be Nonko Insio. Nonko literally means slave and Insio means river. So we have the Nonko Insio, which means the slave river. This was where our brothers and sisters were made to take their last bath. The reason why they rely more on the Nonko Insio than the river Emisa was because during the rainy season, this river, that is the Emisa, have a gauge flow, and it's very difficult for you to swim or bathe in it. So during the rainy season, because this place is always still and stagnant, they made them wash themselves in the Nonkonsio, but not in River Emisa. But during the dry season, they use both rivers to bathe the captives. But the question is, sometimes the river flows so high to this level and you can't even cross. So the question is, imagine if the river is full up, how can our brothers and sisters bathe in that river? That is why they use the same bamboo tree and they cross it. They use it across the river and they hang us on it, so that half of our body will be in the river and half will be on top. After that, they use that same bamboo tree. They cut the bamboo tree, split it open to look like a brush, and they use that to scrub our brothers and sisters whilst they are in the river. So in scrubbing them with this bamboo, definitely you're going to give them a whole lot of cuts around their body. Somebody asked me, Kofi, why is it that those of us that are being sold are taken through these processes before being sold? Then I told them, all their objectives is for them to know which one is stronger, so that when they bring them out of the river, those merchants will be here and they will choose the ones that they feel deserve to be bought. So after washing them in the river, they make them come out from the river, and their feet develop this footpath to where we are standing now. In addition to all this, they make go through vigorous exercises like jumping, sit up, push, all sorts of exercises just to determine their strength. So after the determination of their strength, all the blood is cleaned from them and they were smeared with palm oil and shea butter just for them to look fresh. So after that, they take them to where we have our first auction. Okay, so they bring them to the first auction site. During that era, there was this big baobab tree that was situated right here. The baobab tree was uprooted by a strong wind in 1994. But this baobab tree, we needed to plant this tree again, because as Africans, we see ourselves as seed. Wherever you plant us, we will definitely germinate. So the plan was to have somebody who is African, who think African, and who have African blood in him. Not because you are born in Africa, that makes you an African, but because African is born in you. So when we have the opportunity for Obama to come to Ghana, the plan was we wanted Obama to plant this particular tree. But later, Obama couldn't come over because Americans said they have a lot of enemies. So we weren't able to plant, Obama wasn't able to plant this baobab tree. We also missed on another opportunity when we had Pelosi and the Black Caucus that came to Ghana. We worked with them, but later it was more of security issues. They couldn't come to plant that tree. Basically, that tree is where the first auction took place. So they take you to that tree and they chain you around the tree for your first auction. Basically, our brothers and sisters were sold with things that are really not important. Things like used clothes, tobacco, gunpowder, mirror, and what have you. And at a point in time, even animals were valuable as compared to us, because one horse goes for 15 strong enslaved Africans. So after getting your captives, you need to proceed to the first branding site. This is a place that they're going to put a metal in fire for it to be very, very hot. Stab it at your back, your chest, or your shoulder as a source of identification. So after the branding section, those of our brothers and sisters that were bought will be put back into their chains and shackles, and they will be made to march to the Cape Coast dungeons from Manso to Cape Coast, which was 35 miles by foot. And those of our brothers and sisters who were seen not marketable, who were seen not stronger, are just killed and eliminated. And those of them that were killed in here, and those of them that lost their lives in here, were buried right there. So those of them that couldn't survive it, those of them that fought, and those of them that were seen as weak, that lost their lives, and those of them that were killed, were all buried right behind the bamboo tree. And we call the place the Bamboo Cemetery. So this small heap, or the mountain that you're seeing over there, it's not just a mountain, but they are the mortal remains of most of our ancestors that were buried on this site. Now we'll be going to the spiritual aspect of the tour, because we Africans always believe that religion is a doctrine for man to attain spirituality, but for us, we believe more in spirituality than in religion. So when we come in here, we have almost 10 rituals that we perform in here, but all these rituals are not binding on anyone to do. But when you want to do that ritual, it is best for us to go through that ritual. But I'm not going to give you data of all the rituals that we do here, but I'll be just giving you some basis of some of the things that we do here. The first thing that we do when we land on this sacred ground is first to face our ancestors from where they were buried and to sing to them for them to know that we have returned. We sing to them for them to know that against all odds, against all segregation and oppression, today we've been able to come to our own land to connect with them spiritually and physically. So we sing for our ancestors to appreciate us that today we've come back to them. We go to the river that they bathe in. We go to the river, and first thing is to touch the river, because we see the river as the blood of our ancestors, because most of our ancestors' blood were spilled in this river. So we touch the river and we thank. We don't ask anything, but we just thank them for how far they brought us. We thank them for the miracles that they made us see each day, and we thank them for continuously blessing their children. After that, we stand in the river and we baptize ourselves with the river. The baptism is very, very, very important, because with the baptism, those of us that have the same color as us but don't see themselves as us, but because they've come through the tour and they've understood who they really are, we give them the opportunity to baptize them, so that we take them from the old them to the new African, of themselves. So we baptize them, and after the baptism, the fourth one is the 3-in-1 rituals. For the 3-in-1 rituals is basically you go to the river, you fetch some of the river, and you wash your face with it. And you tell your ancestors they should open your eyes so that you'll be able to see good from evil. Likewise, you fetch some of the water with your mouth, to touch your mouth, and you say to your ancestors they should open your mouth so that you speak wisdom, so that wherever you speak, people from all walks of life will come and listen to you, because they know you are made of wisdom. The third one, you rinse your ears with the river, just to tell your ancestors that they should make your ears open, so that when you hear them speaking to us, you could be able to understand what they are telling you. Then after that, we go to the fifth. The fifth is basically about, now you have all the opportunity to ask your ancestors what you want. So that is where you have to bring a coin with you. You go to the river. We have a special spot in the river that will take you there. You touch the river, you say your wish, And after saying your wish, you bring your coin out with your right hand and you throw your coin in the river. The 10th one, you see I've jumped from 5 to 10. The 10th one is where after everything, you all come together and congratulate each other for making this journey. I don't know how the congratulation message is going to be like in this COVID era, because pre-COVID, we were just hugging each other. But now, unless the manager of Torchlight teaches me what we need to do. Then after that, we all come together. Once again, we pray and end of the tour. So whenever you plan visiting Ghana, St. Mansour Slave River site is a place to be. It is a place that connects you to your ancestors, and it's the place that connects you to your real self. So always Ghana, St. Mansour should be on your list. Thank you. Okay, so as you can see, we have this 7 erected walls at the site. Basically, the name of the wall is the Memorial Wall of Return. With this wall, we are giving all our brothers the opportunity to have their names written on this wall. We are also taking stock of all our brothers and sisters that have returned back to their roots. We want your coming here to be very, very symbolic. So all these names that you see over here has been documented in our books. And the government is trying to engrave all those names in front of the car park to tout them as those of our brothers and sisters that have returned to their roots, that have visited St. Mansour Slave River site. So whenever you want to write your name on this wall, it goes for a fee, and it goes for $50, which is equivalent to 200 Ghana cedis before you have your name written on this wall. So basically, we've come to the end of the tour, and thank you for watching.